Hello, BookTube. Who wants to go through a batch of mail? Some Friday mail. We've got the first winter storm of 2019 bearing down on Boston. Oh, we've got the Bean in the background. Here, Bean. Let's come and see your fans. They were commenting how they never see you anymore. There you are. We've got a winter storm bearing down on Boston for Saturday night into Sunday. Bearing down on all of New England. I think Vermont and New Hampshire and Maine will get hit much worse than Boston does, but Boston could still get a solid forearm of snow, deeper than my dog. So we shall see what happens. But I've got a small pile of packages here, no boxes, but we'll see what kinds of stuff we have. Maybe something squeal-worthy, something interesting. Let's see what the first one is. Okay. The first one's a novel. I think I requested this. Always in the mood for novels, and I think this is a debut as well. Anyway, it's got a kind of an interesting cover design. It's by C.J. Hauser, about whom we know what? Teaches creative writing and literature at Colgate University. She is the author of the novel The Frumaways, and she lives in Hamilton, New York. So it's not a debut. It's a follow-up, I think. And it's called Family of Origin. Let's see here. It is a novel at turns exuberant and wise, in the vein of The Family Fang and The Portable Veblen. Okay, both pretty good novels. About a strange half-siblings yoked together on a swampy Gulf Coast island after their biologist father's drowning. Welcome to Leap's Island, where a group of fringe scientists are obsessively studying the undowny bufflehead, a rare species of sea duck whose loss of waterproof feathers proves, they say, that evolution is running backward. Into this world of so-called reversalists with a capital R. Oh, that's funny. There's a group of people called reversalists who think evolution works in reverse. Come Elsa and Nolan Gray, a half-brother and sister whose father, Dr. Ian Gray, has recently drowned while desperately trying to prove his own evolutionary theories. His estranged children find themselves on a pilgrimage to jointly reclaim his belongings and his memory, and to try to understand the stakes of the research he abandoned them to pursue. Sounds good. So this comes out a long time from now, long after winter storms. This comes out in July. So even though I am now very much feverishly back to reading everything, I will probably wait to read a July book until closer to the day. But that's a good start. We're off to a good start. And I think the Bean wants to destroy mail. Yes? Yes? Ooh. It briefly looked to me like she was settling down to nap, but nope, she's on the case. So what have we got here? Oh, great. Oh, great. Fantastic. Okay, this comes out in March, I think. Yes, this comes out in early March in hardcover. And this is an author who has simply, by brute force, won my admiration, so now I'll never miss anything that he writes. And this is Cemetery Road by Greg Illes. He did Not Just Burning, which is an enormous novel and a fantastic one. And all the other books in that series were great, too. Let's see here. When Marshall McEwen left his hometown at age 18, he vowed never to return. The trauma that drove him away ultimately spurred him to become one of the most successful journalists in Washington, D.C. But just as the political chaos in the nation's capital lifts him to new heights, Marshall is forced to return home in spite of his boyhood vow. His father is dying, his mother is struggling to keep the family newspaper from failing, and the town is in the midst of an economic rebirth that might be built on crimes that reach into the state capital, and perhaps even to Washington itself. More disturbing still, Marshall's high school sweetheart, Jet, has married into the family of Max Matheson, a patriarch of one of the families that rule Bienville through a shadowy organization called the Bienville Poker Club. When archaeologist Buck McKibben is murdered at a construction site, the town is thrown into chaos. The ensuing homicide investigation is soon derailed by a second crime that rocks the community. Power broker Max Matheson's wife has been shot dead in her own bed, and the only other person in it at the time was her husband. Stranger still, Max demands that his daughter-in-law, Jet, defend him in court. And this, you get a sense of, from that description of what's going on here, these are sort of Mississippi modern-day noir But the thing that has won me over to this author completely is the sheer devotion of his execution. He writes a fantastic novel. He writes, regardless of whether or not any of the thriller gimmicks are on display. The last 3 novels that I've read by this author were just totally memorable. So I will definitely read this. It's coming right up too. That's good. All right, so we've got 2 fiction so far. 2 things that I am definitely in the mood to read. Let's see what the next one is here. Okay. All right, this is from Lake Union Publishing, which is an imprint of Amazon. Okay, so this is by Catherine Ryan Hyde, and it's called Have You Seen Luis Velez? Let's see. Raymond Jaffe doesn't feel like he belongs. His mother and stepfather don't understand him, and his stepsisters pretty much ignore him. He only sees his dad and his new wife every other weekend, and after his best friend Andre moves away, he'll have no one left at school either. But one question, uttered from down the hall on the 2nd floor of his apartment building, is enough to give him a new sense of purpose. Have you seen Luis Velez? That is the question that is asked. The question comes from Mildred Millie Guterman, a 92-year-old resident of Raymond's building, who he's never met until that moment. He finds it eerie how she is looking toward him, but not actually at him, until he realizes she is blind. Luis Velez, he soon learns, had helped Millie run errands and go to the grocery store every week for nearly 4 years, until very recently when he seemed to vanish into thin air. Millie, unable to go to the store or the bank by herself, is now almost entirely out of food. Without a second thought, Raymond takes her by the arm and leads her to the grocery store in the first of what will become many trips together. Okay. And Catherine Ryan Hyde is the author of 36 books. In the last 6 years alone, her books have reached well over 3 million readers. That's incredible. And she wrote the 1999 novel Pay It Forward, that was made into a movie. Okay, so she definitely knows what she's doing. And this sounds like an interesting premise. It sounds like you could go almost anywhere from that premise. That's fun. All right, so this comes out in late May. That sounds really good. It sounds like a skilled author could do a lot with that. Right, so we're heavy on the fiction. Let's see if we can keep going here. We're heavy on the fiction and no duds so far. What have we got? What have we got next? Oh, very good. Okay, I requested this. Not only because it goes in line with what I've been saying about 2019 being a trend for strong year for historical fiction, but also for another reason, a very obvious other reason for those of you who read romance novels. This is a novel coming out in May called The Yankee Widow, and it's by Linda Lael Miller, who romance fans will know that name. She doesn't write big, stately historical novels like this. She writes romance novels, and they are terrific. And this looks like a different kind of thing from her, which is always, I always love that. I always love it when authors do that. This is a richly layered, multi-generational saga set during the Civil War. Okay. And it draws on the author's deep love for the Civil War era, and it follows the dramatic story of Carolyn Hammond, a young widow of Corporal Jacob Hammond, as she takes on the sole responsibility for the family farm that lies just at the edge of the town of Gettysburg. Keeping her promise to look after the farm and keep Caroline and her daughter Rachel safe if Jacob does not return from battle is Enoch Flynn, a hired former slave who has worked for the Hammonds for years and mourns Jacob as a brother. As horrific fighting erupts on her doorstep, the vagaries of war put Caroline's homestead in the direct path of a dedicated Union soldier and a passionate Southern rebel. But both are seeking shelter at the farm, and each is loyal to his side. The Yankee Widow. Linda Lael Miller. Okay. So a big, ambitious historical novel from an author who certainly in another genre, in romance fiction, has nothing to prove. That's great. Can't wait to read it. All right, so all fiction so far. Let's no fiction that actually displeases Steve, but still a little bit on the Habsburg Empire wouldn't be totally amiss. What have we got here? Okay, This is from Farrar, Straus and Giroux. This comes out in early April. And the pub sheet is entirely praise. The pub sheet does not tell me what this is. It's by Sarah Knott, and it's called Mother is a Verb, An Unconventional History. In Mother is a Verb, a highly original interpretation of mothering, the writer, feminist and historian Sarah Knott, weaves a tale that began with her own story as she grapples with whether to have a child, before expanding into maternity in other places and times. Knott structures the book to mirror the phases of pregnancy and early mothering, and covers everything from miscarriage to late-night feelings, from morning sickness to evolving terminologies. Though her own story is ever present, we feel the baby on her hip, always at her side. Knott uses her present moment as a means of exploring the past. The past of motherhood. Oh, that sounds interesting. Right, totally didn't see this coming. Comes out in early April. It sounds like a very personally motivated study of motherhood. Okay, what's the matter, Bean? What you doing? I'm just sort of here. You want to say hi to people again? Since you're right here on me? What's we? Quack. What's up? All right, well, here, let's... She doesn't have anywhere to go. Where are you going to go? She's so tiny. All right, okay, let's move on. So, Mother is a Verb breaks the fiction streak. So let's see what's next here. Oh. Okay. All right. Okay. This comes out in May. This is a gigantic book called The Impeachers. A big, thick thing coming out in May. The Trial of Andrew Johnson and the Dream of a Just Nation. By Brenda Wineapple, who's one of the greatest historians working today. And this is the story of a U.S. president who was impeached. An intemperate, politically inept embarrassment to the country who was impeached and removed from office. So that's what, wow, okay, so let's see. What are you doing? Oh, no, don't do that. Baby girl, don't do that. What's the matter with you? Sorry, someone's being a handful. When award-winning author Brenda Wineapple began writing The Impeachers 6 years ago, deep into the Obama presidency, impeachment was far from anyone's mind. A visionary writer, Wineapple was fascinated by the first ever impeachment of a U.S. president, and, fast forward several years, the topic of impeachment once again sweeps the nation. When Abraham Lincoln was assassinated in 1865 and Vice President Andrew Johnson became the accidental president, it was a dangerous time in America. Congress was divided over how the Union should be reunited, when and how the secessionist South should regain full status, whether former Confederates should be punished, and when and whether black men should be given the vote. Devastated by war and resorting to violence, many white Southerners hoped to restore a pre-Civil War society, just without slavery, and the pugnacious Andrew Johnson, who was no Lincoln, seemed to share their goals. With the unchecked power of executive orders, Johnson ignored Congress, pardoned rebel leaders, promoted white supremacy, opposed civil rights, and called Reconstruction unnecessary. Congress had to stop the American president who was acting like a king. With her extensive research and profound insights, the author dramatically restores this pivotal period in American history when the country, on the heels of a brutal war, was rocked by the first ever impeachment of a sitting American president. Okay. All right. So this comes out in late May, and you gotta feel in a way you have to feel great for Brenda Wineapple, because that is the ultimate stroke of luck to be writing on this subject years ago, and then to suddenly have everyone talking about impeachment right when the book is coming out. That is amazing, and who knows what the subject of impeachment will mean in late May. So I guess we'll reconvene then and find out. I won't be waiting until then to read the book, because I'm a big fan of the author. And then this will be our last one. This is this is our last book of the day. What is this? Big thick thing, whatever it is. Oh, great. Okay. This is by Callie Bates, and this is The Soul of Power, the sequel to The Waking Land, as you can tell from the cover art. Fantastic. This is going to be a Del Rey hardcover in June. When we met Sophie Dunbarron in Callie Bates' riveting debut novel, The Waking Land, she was standing alongside Elana Veltai as Elana led a rebellion against a kingdom that once held both their allegiances. When we find Sophie again in The Soul of Power, she has filled the role for which she was been groomed her entire life. She is the unsteady monarch of a once divided country. Half her court want her deposed, and the other half question her every decision. With an influx of magic-bearing refugees pouring across the border, resources already thinned by war are stretched to the breaking point. When Elana, not only her ally but her closest thing she has to assist her, is captured and taken to a rival kingdom, Sophie must navigate an increasingly thorny political maze by herself. And worse, she's hiding a huge secret, one that could destroy her tenuous hold on the crown forever. Okay, all right, well, I really like The Waking Land, and I know that I don't have a copy, so I'm going to need to get a copy and reread it. Since I got this, maybe I'll get the paperback of The Waking Land if it's due soon. Certainly sometime between now and June, I've got to reread it. Maybe I could get it at the library. I keep meaning to come up with a way to incorporate the Boston Public Library into this channel. I've mentioned before that I love the Boston Public Library. Absolutely love it. The old building. The McKim Mead and White building, the gorgeous old building. And I used to go there a lot. I used to go there to Bates Hall a lot for work, for research, for writing. For that definitely real feel that you get when you are working in a crowd of strangers who are also working. I don't discount that at all. That's real, and that can sometimes be just what you need. I just stopped going, and maybe this is a way. Maybe instead of getting these sequels and these third books in line or whatever, and thinking, well, that means I should probably request the earlier volume. Maybe instead of doing that, I should try and find them at the library and take you along and just do it that way. I've been meaning to, not just for this channel, I've been meaning to incorporate the Boston Public Library back into my life somehow. Booktube or no booktube. It's just the dog part of my life took over, and then it seemed like, my rationale at first was, well, how can I possibly leave my sick, old, ailing dogs just to indulge myself in time at the library, when anything I can do there, I can do at home. And then that became just a normal habit, the normal default position. And now I think, well, why would you leave Frida alone to go and do that when she can't leave you alone? It's just, I'll figure it out. That might be an idea to get, because you see on this channel, I'm forever needing earlier books, things that would be at the library. So I'll check that out. I will consult with Deb and check that out. So in the meantime, that is our mail haul. Fiction-heavy mail haul. So we have The Soul of Power, the sequel to a fantasy series. I remember liking the first book, so I'm glad to get this. I don't usually get fantasy or science fiction, so that's wonderful. I have to thank the publicist. Then a major work of history, The Impeachers, by the great Brenda Wineapple. A major work of history regardless of the contemporary echoes in American politics. This is still going to be the greatest account of the impeachment of Andrew Johnson that's ever been written. And that's no small thing. Then we have, let's see here, The Yankee Widow by Linda Lael Miller, a Civil War historical novel by a veteran romance author. Cemetery Road by Greg Iles, another one of his Mississippi noir novels that just can't be missed. They're just so good. Then Family of Origin by C.J. Hauser, what sounds like a very entertaining novel, probably end up being touching too, about a renegade group of weirdo scientists and siblings whose father was or was not one of those scientists. That will be fascinating. That line about how he abandoned them to embrace his research, that has resonance. That could lead to a very good book. Then have you seen Luis Velez, about a lonely young boy who meets a blind woman and the relationship that they develop? And Mother is a Verb by Sarah Knott, what sounds like a personal account of all the stages of motherhood throughout history and throughout the history of one person's experience with it. So a fascinating mail haul that I'll just have to, some of these I will dig into right away. Others I'll just let wait. Some of them are quite a time away. So, all right, so that does it for now. I'm sure I'll be back. There's lots of other bookish stuff to talk about. But in the meantime, I'll see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.